Hello, it's Kathy at Move It or Lose It podcast. We are really excited for this holiday season. Our team and you guys have picked your favorites for 2024. So enjoy the holiday season, listening to some and seeing some that you may have missed this year. Enjoy the holidays. We wish you happy holidays and take a rest, take a seat during some of this time and take a listen at some of MS Disrupted, Move It or Lose It podcasts that you may really enjoy. Enjoy the season. Hello, I am your host, Kathy Chester, and welcome to the Move It or Lose It podcast, a podcast about all things that move the mind, body, and soul. The Move It or Lose It podcast is for information, awareness, and inspirational purposes only. I am not a doctor, and I don't even play one on TV. So please consult your doctor before making any medical decisions. The views expressed by advertisers, guests, or contributors are their opinions and not necessarily the views of the Move It or Lose It podcast.
Do you know anyone that is struggling with walking or any spasticity in their body? I know that I do with multiple sclerosis and many people that I love. Well, not too long ago, I came across a company called Pulse Devices. Let me tell you, nothing like anything else I've ever tried before. Pulse Device uses local vibration therapy, and it's based on years of scientific literature. It's found the vibration to dramatically reduce spasticity and improve motor function for MS patients. Something, wow, I know that I can use and so many people can use. So if you want to pick up yours today, they're giving us at MS Disrupted, all caps, MS Disrupted, $30 off your Pulse device. Go grab it, see how you like it. Make sure that you use the coupon, and don't forget, they are a great company. If you do not like the product, they will take it back with a full refund. Thank you, Pulse Device.
Hello, I am your host, Kathy Chester, and welcome to the Move It or Lose It podcast, a podcast about all things that move the mind, body, and soul. The Move It or Lose It podcast is for information, awareness, and inspirational purposes only. I am not a doctor, and I don't even play one on TV. So please consult your doctor before making any medical decisions. The views expressed by advertisers, guests, or contributors are their opinions and not necessarily the views of the Move It or Lose It podcast. Hello, today we've got a special guest with us on Move It or Lose It. So you might have heard of Kelli Gastis. She is an author and another MS warrior. So really excited to have you on, Kelli. We've kind of played back and forth. I missed you last time, and so we finally got you on. So happy to have you on today, Kelli.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, we were going back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah.
Life takes over sometimes.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Kids and all that stuff. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just excited to have another fellow MSer on, and I love that you wrote a book. And we talked a little bit before that I get asked all the time, and I'm like, I need a ghostwriter. My hands don't do that. They don't want to do that anymore. So I always like to hear what life was like prior to your diagnosis of MS and all that. What were things that you wanted to do, things that you thought like you were going to do, because MS was probably never even a thought.
Yeah, no, do you know what? It's funny because it's a long time ago. It's like 27 years ago. So I don't fully remember, everything I went through at the time, but yeah, definitely in my 20s. To me, I had a fantastic life. I worked for a Canadian fashion designer. That was just, so exciting in itself. I produced the fashion shows. I did some modeling. I was also a dance instructor and aerobics instructor.
Wow.
So I was working full-time all day. I worked most nights. I worked on the weekends, anything to keep me busy. Plus, go and exercise for myself. Like, there was a great gym. I grew up in Toronto. I'd always go to, and so the nights I wasn't working, well, I was taking spin classes, or I was taking the step classes. Remember those? Those were so fun.
Yeah.
so I was always busy. I had a great little sports car that I loved.
Yeah. Question for you, but just out of fun. Did your mom do step aerobics?
No.
I just have funny memories of my mom getting all dressed in her aerobic, but no one was home. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why is she so dressed up in makeup and stuff
Yeah.
doing these step aerobics? So those are my funny memories of those back in the
Yeah, no,
day.
yeah, and I just loved it. I was consistently busy, always on the move,
Right.
always doing things. Um, and yeah, and I mean, it just, I mean, I had a great set of friends. We were always going out. We were always going dancing. Thursday nights, we were watching Seinfeld. We were watching, Friends. Like, it
Sure.
was just, your life was totally, you were living your life.
Right.
So,
Sure.
it was just, to
Absolutely.
me, yeah, to me, it was just, I never thought anything was going to happen to my health.
Right. Right. I mean, at that age, we're invincible,
Yes,
right?
oh, completely. Yeah, nothing was stopping me. Yeah,
Right. So were you in college at that point?
no, I was working full time
Okay.
as a fashion designer.
Right.
So
Okay.
I was there and I was in the marketing department,
Yeah.
which, I mean, working in fashion is just sort of a
Right.
sensational job in
Yeah.
itself. Like, I mean, just
Oh,
the
I
fashion,
bet.
the clothes.
Oh, yeah. That had to be very exciting, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So then, okay, so you're doing that. And then how many years were you doing fashion? How many years were you in that?
I had worked there probably from like the age of 21 to probably about 28 or 29.
Okay.
Um,
And then,
so
okay, so you were diagnosed young too. You were in your 20s, right?
yeah, I was diagnosed at
Okay.
25.
Okay. And so was it when you went in first, so you were in Canada still?
Yes.
And then you went in, was that a quick diagnosis for you? Did they know?
I think from what I see now on social media
Mhm.
and stuff, I do think it was quick. My initial symptoms were tingling. So I had the tingling down the legs.
Yeah.
I spent so much time trying to figure it out. I knew if I flexed my head down, I would get the tingling. I'd be like, oh. But if I was looking straight, I didn't get the tingling. So
Right.
in my head, from being a fitness person, I honestly thought, I'm like, I'm going to go to the chiropractor because I just have a
Right.
pinched nerve.
Right.
You
Oh,
know, it's
yeah, same.
Yeah, I was just like,
Exactly.
okay, so I'll just go. So I went to my mom's chiropractor, and yet
Right.
he adjusted me. He didn't say anything to me.
Uh,
The story that I had heard, which I'm sure is correct, was that he had phoned my mom afterwards and just said,
oh,
you know what, she's going to need a referral to a neurologist, which I think even for my mom at the time was like, what are you talking about? You're a chiropractor.
why? What?
Yeah. So I don't even think it filtered for her. But then
Right.
because that didn't fix it, and I was still I'm sure there was other symptoms and I was just feeling off. So I did go to
Yeah.
the doctor. She didn't know. It probably took a couple weeks. And then
Okay.
she had phoned saying, you know what, I'm going to refer you to a neurologist. And at the time being 25, I mean, I didn't know what a neurologist
Sure.
was
Sure.
because I'd never really heard of it. And I never paid attention to the medical world. I
Right.
wasn't,
Right.
I was in the fashion world. I wasn't paying attention to
Right.
the medical world.
Exactly.
So it was those things. So I don't know that it probably did take longer than I'm remembering. But
Sure.
then once I did get to the neurologist, of course, right away, they did an MRI. And
Okay.
then it was probably, and again, my memory is not that good, but I'm sure it must have been a week or two in between.
Yeah.
And then when I did go back to the diagnosis, everything just started very quickly. Like just the medical world, just, I want to say,
Right.
hugged me, and just didn't want to let me go.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, this is Kathy at MS Disrupted. If you have not joined me on a one-on-one session, I'm going to say you're missing out. I love each and every one of my clients. To do MS Disrupted workout is something that I've trained for many years. And I'm not talking just multiple sclerosis, but many other autoimmune diseases, and also stroke patients and patients that have had head injuries. If you know someone and love someone that needs help, or you yourself needs help with movement, we now know that this is our biggest defense. Does it mean burpees? I don't know, maybe for some of you, but what it really means is allowing our body to move and having a coach, having someone that knows what they're doing. Why? Because I have it. And why? Because I'm trained. So let's do it together. Go on to msdisrupted.com or email me at msdisrupted@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let's do it together. I do remember. It's hard now to remember when it's like we're older and we were
Yeah.
diagnosed so long ago. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it was then, but
Yeah.
it's like so many things. It's like I've been diagnosed longer than than I wasn't. So I'm like,
Yes.
I don't know. Like I think it was then, but that might have been the rheumatoid time, and
Yeah.
I don't remember anymore. So
Yeah.
it gets tricky. It's like because I can go back and they can tell now there were lesions like probably back in high school. So I'm like, I don't know. So
Yeah.
it's tricky now, right? To remember back to those stuff.
Well, it's even just
So,
now at our age, because we have kids, like so much of my memory, and I'll be
right.
like, I'll start talking like, oh no, sorry. No, that was my son. Oh no, like, oh no, sorry. Oh no, that was my, okay, never
Oh
mind.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, my kids have asked me now, if you're going to just put happy birthday, just say happy birthday.
yeah.
Don't say our age because you never get it right. I'm like,
Yeah.
got it. Got it. I won't. I'll just say happy birthday. That's it.
Yeah.
And we'll just be happy I got the day right. That's
Yeah,
it. We'll just stop
exactly.
there. So how many kids do you have?
I have two kids. So
Okay.
my daughter's 18 and my son is 20.
Okay. Oh, fun times, fun
Yes.
ages.
Do you know what? They're fun ages. It's definitely they're, flying the nest.
Yes.
So I'm now entering a totally different stage that
Oh, you are.
I'm not
Yes.
ready for. Like it was okay with my son, but now it's probably going to
Yeah.
get harder with my daughter. And then I'll definitely do the, walking
Yes.
by their bedrooms and start crying
Oh,
and,
yeah.
you know,
I'm a
like,
little past you. So I had babies really young. And so I'm past you. My youngest, I remember coming in and just having that knowing that my youngest was gonna go. And he was already, done his stuff. He stayed home to go to college. He's finally, after watching his siblings spend so much extra money, he was like,
yeah,
I'm gonna stay home and go to school first. I'm like, good idea.
yeah,
So, but I remember that just look in his face, and it was time.
yeah,
And I just remember thinking, they all laughed, and
yeah.
just that same feeling like it's good, but it's so strange. And I couldn't get used to cooking, right? For
Yes.
less people.
Yeah.
I still make so much extra food. I'm like, guys, you got to come get it. So
Yeah.
they don't mind, but it's like I can't stop cooking for everybody.
Yeah.
So
No. And I think that's the weird thing. Like it's just so much. And like I'm sure you're like so much of my life was just on them. Like I made sure I didn't
yes,
work full time. Oh, there's your
right.
cat. I made sure I
It's
didn't
my
work.
dog. It's my
Oh,
golden
it's your
retriever
dog.
that doesn't want to leave. My little therapy dog. She's like, I'm with you.
Yeah, so it is like, I mean, my life was so much their life, just between the dance,
Right.
between the sports, all the driving, and which I loved every moment of it.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was,
for
and now it
sure.
is oh no, where did everyone go? Like, okay, what am I
Yeah.
supposed to do?
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. I know we're a little going off things, but I know how I talk about this a lot in my women's support group and stuff, and how different it was for us back
Right.
then. We didn't share, my kids are a little older, but we didn't share with our kids all about, MS and stuff. That was something that was like not, we didn't go on. There was no talking about it on Instagram. There was no
No,
Instagram. There
no,
was the
there's no
snail
Instagram.
mail of
Yeah,
like the MS Society newsletter.
yeah,
And, there wasn't that. So we didn't feel the freedom I love Julie Stem and I are really good friends. And the book that she wrote is great, but we did not have that opportunity to really share what we wanted with our kids. A, we didn't really know anything.
hmm,
B, we were afraid that it was too much, or to share anything with our work, that we might get fired. We had no clue what we were able to share. So I had done the podcast, a quick one with my daughter, and how different it was then, and how confusing it was for them, because they just didn't know like what was wrong or if we were going to be okay. And it's interesting now that kids are given so much more information than they were back then. And so it's just interesting how we understand that. And in the women's group, you'll have to come in one time. And it's interesting, our younger women with the younger kids are able to share so much differently than we were. So you
yeah, no,
experienced the same,
yeah, no, I completely experienced the same. Like, definitely when I was first diagnosed, like this was back in the 90s. Like you said, there was no social media. We had
right?
internet, but we didn't use it the same
The
way. So
dial up.
yeah. Oh, exactly. Like, I mean, so you'd go and you'd buy books. So I
Right.
just had books and books
Yes.
to try to read from and try to gain some knowledge. And Yeah, probably when my kids were younger, I didn't talk about it a lot because I don't think I had that many flare-ups when they were younger.
Right.
Um, but I was always very cautious of myself, and I was always very cautious of what we were going to be doing or where I was
Sure.
going to be going, like just so that something didn't happen when I was with my kid. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
so that something
Yeah.
didn't set me off.
Yeah.
And I think like even when it came to the book, I didn't intend on writing a book. Like everyone would
Yeah.
always say to me, I have to share, I need to tell my
Yeah.
story.
Right.
And a lot of that was also just in that because I moved to a natural route for
Yes.
it, my children
Right.
have also been made raised naturally. So people were also
Mhm.
interested in that side of my
Sure.
story.
Sure.
Like, what have you been
Yeah.
doing with your kids? Like,
Yeah.
you know what? You don't give them this when they're sick. And I was
Right.
just like,
Right.
oh no, don't give them that. Um,
See, I can remember that because my kids, both my older kids, had ADHD and issues like that. So we went to more of a natural thing. So having that and then having me sick, it wasn't so crazy,
right.
for them. But so let's go into that. So you were diagnosed. The medication that the doctor put you on was what?
Well, when I was first diagnosed, and it pretty much pretty much all happened the same day. I was
Mhm.
diagnosed, didn't know what the hell was going on. I was just with my boyfriend at the time. They told me, I could call my mom if I wanted to, and I was just like, "Holy crap, like call my mom." So yeah, so my mom came down and what they actually did
Uh-huh.
was they put me in a research program
Uh-huh.
right away. So even in my book, I describe it like I make it all like it was a joke, not a joke, but I try to make it funny in that,
Right.
so now I had to go see a different doctor at a different hospital in Toronto, which meant I had to pay parking again. And I
Right.
didn't want to pay parking again, and I had a dance class to teach at 4:30. So how long is this going to take? Because I need
Right.
to go. Like I
Right.
think that was my mind frame was more like, okay, great. So you told me I have
Right.
something. I don't even know what you just said it is. I'll
Right.
have to look it
But I have
up.
to go.
Yeah, like I have to work at 4:30. Like I've got like,
Yeah. Oh, we could be
25.
best friends because I was the same. I'm like, okay, great. I got things to do. I
Yeah.
gotta go.
No, like I didn't have time. And even in my book, I write the whole joke of like, they gave me a pamphlet to read about MS. Well, I
Right.
they didn't give me any time to read it. And I kept like in the book, I'm just like, hey, can I read the pamphlet now? Like,
Right. Right.
okay, I gotta go to another hospital, but can I read the pamphlet first?
Right.
Like I don't
Right.
even know what I'm going for. So I went to this and I was put into a research program, which was
uh,
either a drug or a placebo.
uh, right.
I didn't know whichever. The
Right.
only thing from my young mind at 25 was that I didn't have to pay anything. So I was like, oh,
Right.
perfect. You're like,
Right.
okay, whatever I'm getting is
Sure.
free. Like, that's awesome. Like, which that was my
Sure.
mindset because I
Right.
couldn't have afforded it. So
Right.
it
Absolutely.
was those things. Then I think the difficult thing back then, it was so different in that with the research program, like I said, we didn't know if I was getting a drug or the placebo.
Right.
My boyfriend was taught how to mix whatever I was getting. There was like two
Uh-huh.
vials. He had to mix
Uh-huh.
it. He had to put it in the needle, which was an intramuscular needle, so it was
Right.
super
Right.
long.
So it was the
He
Avonex, probably.
it probably was, and
Yeah.
so
Because I
then
remember that was what I was on. I was like, dear God, what is this
yeah.
needle?
Oh, yeah, no, and so my dear boyfriend, like, we had only been dating, I maybe wanna say a year, like, he had to
Yeah.
learn how to give it to me, so they taught him on an orange, so he knew how much pressure to put, like,
Right. Right.
looking back on it, I just think, "Oh my god, how wrong was all of that?" Like,
Right. Absolutely. Everything
and
was so wrong back then. I mean, it
yeah,
was
no,
so bad.
yeah, it was so bad, it was so yeah, so he learned how to mix everything, he knew, then
Wow.
he learned how to do it, so 3 times a week in different spots on my
Wow.
body, he had to give me the needle.
So yeah, 3 times. So that might have been beta seron or the other one that starts with the B. That was 3 times a week. We'll go on for
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, do you know,
I can't.
and I think I hated it so much, I've just
Yeah,
blocked whatever the name is
yeah.
from my memory because I was just like,
I remember that one because they were going to put me on it and they didn't. But I remember that one. It'll come to me when I'm
yeah,
not thinking of
yeah,
it.
it'll come to you later. So, yeah, so, I mean, I
Yes.
did that. I don't know for how long I did that, but then I
Uh-huh.
think I finally just decided, you know what, I can't do this anymore, like, these
Yeah.
needles. I then
Yeah.
became a fear of needles. It was so hard on my boyfriend.
Yeah.
He hated giving them to me, so when we knew it
Right.
was that day, like, I could even see in his face, he'd just be like,
Right.
"Oh, it's Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta mix all this. I have to be careful. I have to be," so it created
Sure.
it created so much more stress, which funny enough,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
with MS or with anything autoimmune, you're not supposed to have stress because that just
Right.
that makes it worse. So
Right.
it's like, okay, good. So thank you. You're stressing me right out.
Yeah,
It's supposed to make me better. It's not.
exactly.
Like,
For sure. So then you're on that for a while and you decide like this has to change and I don't
yes.
want to be on this. I'm going to go natural. And
Well, it
so
was,
what did that look
I mean, it
like for
wasn't
you?
at that point. I was put on
Uh,
Rebif after
okay.
that.
Rebeth. That,
Yes,
okay. That's the
I
one I was
went,
thinking because that's the 3 days a week one.
okay.
And it
So
might
yeah,
have been something.
it was probably very similar. That one wasn't an
Uh,
intramuscular anymore, but so I was put on that and I probably stayed on that for a good 2 or 3 years.
okay.
Um, I didn't like it. It was the same. I didn't like the needles. I didn't like anything better.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was feeling better.
Uh-huh.
I was having more flare-ups and they were lasting a little bit longer. And each
Yeah,
flare-up, as you know, is so different. So
for
you had no
sure.
idea if was it going to be my hands? Is it
Right.
going to be my feet? Is it going to be my
Right.
legs? Is it going to be my eyes?
Whatever it is going to stay. And it
Yeah.
doesn't, that's stuck with you forever. So
Yeah.
what's
So
next?
and so in that time period, I had met a fantastic massage therapist because I knew massaging would help with my body, with my
Yes.
stress. And she was a phenomenal woman. She did it out of her house. It was so peaceful. And every time I went, she would always say to me, I have this fantastic homeopathic doctor. I didn't know what homeopathy was. Again, I was like maybe at this time, probably
Sure.
26, 27 years old. And to me, I just sort of thought, I'm like, oh, that's all that, natural stuff. I
Right.
don't know anything about
Sure.
that. Um, but after her saying it to me so many times, I think in my head, I'm like, okay, maybe I should just go see him. Maybe she is saying
Right.
something, that could be done. So yeah, my
Sure.
boyfriend and I did go, and it was one of those things that like the minute you sat down with him, I
Yeah.
put all my trust in him. I
Now,
just
what at that time, were you nervous about the expense of that?
I wasn't because I knew it wasn't that expensive. Like I knew it
Hmm.
was maybe say $40 or $50 an
Right.
appointment.
Yeah.
Um, we did have insurance. We
Uh,
did have health insurance, so I knew the majority of it would be covered. I
oh,
don't.
good.
I think I more went for my first appointment was just so I could tell her that I went,
Right.
and then she could stop talking about it, and then I never, the conversation was over.
Yeah.
It
And
was one of
because
those,
around here, it was like I could go to one that's like $300. And
right,
back then, that's how much they were. And I
right,
was like, holy cow, if I had to go $300 and then she
yeah,
had to tell me the stuff I needed, how could I ever keep up with that?
yeah,
And then I was as a single mom, I'm like, there's no way I could do that. So that kind of made me afraid in the beginning of
right,
how I would do that. And then it became, less, you found more homeopathic doctors that would take insurance
right,
and that would help at least with that. So it became more of a norm that we could see more homeopathic doctors that weren't this outrageous price.
right,
So,
yeah. And I think it was like he was a naturopathic doctor, but he specialized in homeopathy. So if you know anything about the two homeopathies, there's those tiny little pellets.
mm,
They're like little tiny sugar pellets, which when you take
okay.
them, you think, what is this doing? Like these are the
Yeah.
tiniest two little candies. And they're kind
Right.
of sweet, and I think it was just, yeah, through that first appointment, my boyfriend and I were just, because the appointments are longer, they really get to know you. They go through your entire history, your family's history. And
Right.
I felt relief. I sort of felt like I had been heard and
Right.
he was going to help me. Like I really just looked at him and I thought, yeah, you know what? You are
Yeah.
going to help me. So, and then it was over time. And then he just kept stressing, you know what? I need you to get off the drug. Like I can't.
Yeah. Are you ready to disrupt your MS? I am. And to take charge of your health in the new year? Join Disrupting MS together, a holistic program designed just for you. We combine individual workouts, empowering mental activities, group Zoom sessions, and personalized wellness coaching to help you thrive with MS. This January, start building mind body connections that you deserve. Enrollment is now open. Right now, spaces are limited. Visit msdisrupted.com to reserve your spot today. Together, we are disrupting MS. And I'm so pleased to have Molly Witt with me as we disrupt MS together. You don't want to miss her mind body connection and her wellness. Let's do this together, guys. Let's not let 2025 be a year that we sit down and let MS take over. We are going to disrupt our disease. Let's go.
We can't clear everything out of your body, if the drug and those toxins are still
Right.
in there. So it was just, I mean, it was a decision that was a hard decision,
Yeah,
but
sure.
when I did
I'm
make it,
sure with the neurologist making you probably very nervous.
oh, yeah. Yeah, they were not supportive of that at all. And even when we did say, we are going to go off the drug, I mean, they had some harsh comments, that
Yeah.
they
Oh,
would
I'm
make
sure.
to scare you. And I mean, and it works because they do, they scare
Especially back
you.
then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So, and back then, I mean, you didn't have anywhere else to look. You didn't have anybody else to ask. And so
Right.
I just kind of went into it with my belief that I trusted
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Very good. And not a lot of support from really anyone back then, because you wouldn't
No,
even really get that from very many patients
no.
back then, because they would look at you like you were crazy.
Well, they would look at you like you're crazy. Like, even, I'm not saying my family looked at me like I was crazy, but even for my family, like, no one had really done anything natural. So for
Right.
them, it was just
Right.
you're doing
Well,
what?
scared probably, like, this
Yeah.
is you can't do this. You're
Yeah.
gonna like something could no, that I think that that was so bold of you to do. And you went with what you felt your gut saying, like, this is something I have to do, and this feels like the right thing. And I
Right.
think one of the things I feel like with MS patients, the more that I know in like the circle of the women and men that I train, that I know personally very well, I feel that we know our bodies in the MS community more than any other disease that I've worked with. I just feel
Okay.
that we have a sense of knowing what we need and when it's time to come off something. When I feel like maybe I should word it differently, the ones that really without offending anyone, that
Mhm.
eat properly or maybe do the things that we're supposed to do more often, the
Right.
movement, the eating better. I think that we're very in tune with what our body needs or doesn't need.
Right.
Whether it's rest or whether it's different food or whether it's a supplement that is off or things like that. Would you
When I
agree
think,
with that?
yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I even think we just even have a sense of, for me too, it's just, how is something going to make me feel? Like, there's all the things on social media, like, just say no, take care of yourself. I have no problem saying no. Like, if I know
Right.
I'm going to be in a situation that's going to stress me out or give me anxiety, I'm
Sure.
not going.
Sure.
Like, or if I know there's going to be, I mean, what the temperature is going to be, or if there's going to be a lot of walking and standing,
Right.
I'm not going.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
like it's just even like, what your body can do, what your body can't
Right.
do, what your
Yes,
anxiety or what your nervous system can handle.
for
So I think we
sure.
also just learn as to, no, I'm not putting myself in those situations. Thank
Right.
you though. Like, you go and have a
Yeah.
great time.
Yes. And I
I'm
think
gonna,
that that's a great thing that we can help, our younger newly diagnosed, I think help us a lot with like remembering that, oh yeah, this is why we're still battling. This is why we
right.
didn't give up. Where I think we help a lot with it's okay to say no. It's
Yes.
absolutely okay. So one of the things I wanted to bring up to you that you said that I love is about the book is I wanted to share stories about living with MS and any insights, humorous stories, which we talked about, inspiration and motivation for anyone. I love the fact that you put humor, which we know I'm waiting for you to do an audio one
Yeah.
because I can't read.
Yeah.
Last book I read was in 2015. And so I
Okay.
had ice packs on and
Oh,
um so I love that you've done it in humorous ways because that's exactly what I want to do. Because sometimes our stories are heavy, right? We've had heavy things. And
yes.
to lace it with humorous things, I think is such a great way to be able to tell our story. So I love that you did that and
Well,
that was your heart to do.
yeah, and I'm like, the humor to me, like, when I first started writing the book, I originally just started it as stories for my kids.
Mhm.
Because that's what I more thought. I'm like, because I haven't really told them things, or we never talked about, they love snow days. Well, I didn't ever talk to them about how a snow day was hard for mom.
Right,
I couldn't just take you to to the tobogganing
right,
hill. I had to think about everything. So I had
right.
sort of I'd started writing little stories, and then it was just over time that everyone was saying, Kelly, you need to write a book. And I thought, oh, I
Yes.
have some little stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could probably elaborate on those. And yeah, and for the
Right.
humor, I mean, you do kind of have to look at, some
Right.
things are funny, like when you go
Right.
places, or just not the reactions of other people, but just and that's the other part of my book. Like, everyone means well,
Right.
and people aren't hurtful. And sometimes, especially during COVID and stuff, like, people need a connection and they want to talk to people, and a lot of people don't talk to
Yes.
strangers. They don't talk, like,
Right.
I have no problem. If I see you in the bathroom,
Right.
I'll have a conversation with you. Like, you know, like the bathroom is my happy place. I'm
Yeah,
always in
for
there. So
sure.
yeah. So you
Yeah.
want to talk, you want to have a conversation? I'll talk to you. Like, you know, or
Yeah.
at the grocery store, if I'm standing in line, I'll talk to the people in front of me or
Yeah.
behind me. Cause
My best friend hates that about me, by the way.
oh
Every time we
yeah,
go somewhere, she's like, just stop. You don't need to
yeah,
talk to that person. Just please don't. I'm like, I can't help it. She's
yeah,
like, just stop. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
she's totally opposite of me. She's like, just don't talk to them. Like,
yeah.
I'll try. So I totally get it. I talk to everybody. So the other thing you put in, I love this, is the book invites you to be honest. If I can read that, the book invites you to be honest, engaging, and humorous approach to life. I read that already. Contains valuable information for everyone. Written is relatable and right and lighthearted and inspirational way, provides specific tricks and tips and strategies that have you that I've used. Let me do this again. Strategies that I've used for over 25 years.
Right.
So I love that because I think that's so key to do, that we actually give back the things that we've learned over the 20 something years that we've had it. And I
Right.
think that that gets missed because um, we think sometimes we hit a certain age and it's like, well, they already know all this now. They've
Yeah.
got all these new things and they already know this. But I think it was so key that you tapped into this, because I notice often in the women's support group how much they need that, how much our newly diagnosed, our younger generations, the guys and the girls, how much they really feed off that. And so I think it's just great. And I really want to promote your book. And I can't wait to be able to listen to it, because I'm like, I want to read it. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I know the people that have read it, and I know they're very close to me, and you've had just great reviews. And so I'm going to tell everybody, if you've not picked it up, even though I've not, I'm waiting for this to come on Audible. I know that some of you are in the same boat as I am, but I know the people that are close to me that have read it, and they have just had great things to say about it. So congrats to you for doing such a good job.
Oh, thank
So
you.
you've had really great reviews, and you must be really proud of yourself for doing it.
You know, it's one of those, it's like a double-edged sword. Like, I think because it's something I put it out, it was so personal. There's a lot of personal stories in there. And definitely you're probably the same as me. Like, I never really shared my MS with anyone. I didn't share it with people
Yeah,
I worked with. I didn't share it, other than maybe when I used to teach dancing, they knew it.
right,
But definitely as I then went on to other professions, like, I mean, I was a real estate agent. That was my last
right,
profession. And no one knew, and it wasn't
right,
until my
right,
book came out, another agent was like, Kelly, like, I've done how many deals with you? Like, I had absolutely no idea.
right,
I was like, well, I didn't need to talk about it because I wasn't
right.
having a flare up. I was feeling great.
Yeah. And
Every
it's
time we
that,
worked together.
hidden disease that you can't see until you see it, till
Yeah.
something goes and it's like, oh, what's wrong? When did this happen?
Yeah. No, and I think that was, and so the book, it is very lighthearted. It does share my stories, but then I also, like I said, I put in all the tips and tricks, sort of what I did for mental
Yeah,
health, just all my different little food additions, all the different things
right,
I would add to all of our dishes. I also
right.
wrote the book when my kids were younger, so it was a different
Yeah,
stage of my life,
right,
of how I was dealing with my illness and taking care of my kids and
right,
raising them to be the best they could. So it was what I did in our family dynamics to keep everyone healthy.
right. So a second book, you think?
Do you know what? There could be a second book. Yes, it might be more of like an affirmation type book.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I like that.
just because, yeah, I think for the younger people going through the MS, which again, their life is so different because they've got all the social media, they know all this stuff.
Right,
I never knew about affirmations.
right.
I never really knew about meditating or the vision
Yeah,
boards. Those are
right.
all things that I incorporate,
Yeah,
which I think are huge. Like, you need that for your mental
absolutely.
health. You need that
Yeah,
for your mindset. And
yeah,
so I've written all that in the book. Like, you know what? These are tools just to add
for
to your
sure.
basket. So when you're having a terrible day, you know what? Try
You
one
can
of
take
these.
that time. for
Yeah,
sure.
and I also love being creative. I love colors. I love things like that. And I think a lot of people do. And so that also
Yeah,
takes you out of your negative mindset and gives you something else
right.
to focus on. Because as we all know, when you have a flare up, there's
Yes,
not much you can do. You're usually
right.
sitting at home, depending on
Yes,
what body part has been affected,
yes.
and it gets really boring. And
And depressing.
yeah, I mean, now we have phones, you can play games on your phones, but
Yeah,
when you and I were first diagnosed, there was no
right.
games.
No.
You were in your living room
Steroids,
and
metal tasting,
yeah,
and it's just
yeah,
depressing for
yeah,
sure. Absolutely. I love that what you've done. I just think, and I know you've done the essential oils and that's on your website and I'll put a link to
right.
that at the bottom. I feel very strongly about that. I'm going to look into yours. I also, obviously, I think you'll agree and it'll be in your website. I always have an issue with someone going to the drugstore and getting them. Like,
Yes,
please research where these essential oils are coming from.
yes.
So I love that. So I want to make sure that you take a look at the essential oils that you have, and read about them. I feel like most people know a lot about them, but there's always people who don't. So please take a look at your website for the essential oils.
Well, and I
And,
think even when it comes to the essential oils, yeah, I knew nothing about them. I want to
yeah,
say probably good 5 or 6 years ago. It just wasn't even, maybe more like 7 or 8. Wasn't even anything. And it was just, I happened to stumble upon some lady who was talking about it on internet or somewhere. And I was
uh,
just like, what? I was like, what? I was like, oh, it's not just something I put in my diffuser and walk
right,
away. Like she was actually using it as a health benefit. And I think then
right.
that just sparked my curiosity because I love doing
Yeah,
research. I love looking up
right.
anything that might help me. And so, yeah, as soon as I started doing the research, I
Absolutely.
was blown away. I was just
I
like,
think it
oh,
was my massage therapist that got
right.
me into
Yeah.
that probably like 10 years ago. And she got
Yeah.
me into them. And I was like, yes. And like, my wrists and my feet and stuff like that. And so, yeah, take a look at your web. I mean, definitely, I want you guys to take a look at her website and look into her essential oils. I'm definitely looking into your oils. I'll be
Oh,
getting
thank you.
some.
Thank you.
Um, absolutely. And then I would really want you to talk about your blogging.
Do you know what?
So
I
you do
don't,
blog, right? You don't
no,
blog anymore.
I don't blog. I don't
You
blog.
actually,
I
you had
don't,
said that. You have a monthly newsletter that you put
yeah,
out, right?
I just do a monthly newsletter, which is
Okay.
just supposed to be more of an entertainment thing, something interesting to
Yeah.
read. I don't really write about MS in it. It's
Okay.
just anything that's happening sort of in my life at the
Yeah.
moment, what's resonated with me, or just what's going
Yeah.
on in my world.
I
I mean,
love
like, yeah,
that.
like my most recent one, which this is just what's happening in our life, was my son wants to buy a watch. Well, when we were growing up, you went to the bay, right?
Right.
You went to the Hudson's Bay, you just picked out a nice watch and you went home. But now the
Right.
world is so inundated and everyone has to do so much research,
Right.
and I'm
Exactly.
like, and as the mom, I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, you know what? I'm like, it's been long enough. Just buy a freaking watch.
Right.
Like, but his
Exactly.
mindset is like, no, no, I want to see, where is it made? What are the
Right.
mechanics inside? What are
It's
the,
like,
yeah, like it's like information overload. Whereas I'm just like,
yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, we would
Yeah.
go to the bay. I'm like, you didn't have any information. It was just like, yeah, that looks pretty,
Yeah,
like, whereas
exactly.
now, and I think that was sort
They
of
know too much.
yeah. And I think that's the thing. Like they know too much and everyone, like, it's
Way
just
too much.
constant information overload. So
And your newsletter is on obviously on the website, right?
yes, yeah, they can sign up
Okay,
there.
yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to look into that. So my last question for you, because our anyone's ability to listen is 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I know I'm over, so I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want to lose people.
Yeah.
So what would you say if you ran into a newly diagnosed person and they're asking you for advice? What would you had one bit of advice, what would it be?
I would say to keep an open mind. Don't only just take one person's advice. Look into all the multiple ways that you can control this. There are natural ways. And I would think just keep an open mind and try things. If it doesn't work, that's okay. You tried it. Try something else, right? Like just
I
sort of,
love it.
have a belief system that, like, there is usually more than one answer. So
Love it. Love it. Beautifully said. All
mhm.
right. Name of the book. Where can they get it?
It's Fabulous in Flats. They can
Fabulous.
get it.
Which I love that. Fabulous in Flats because I cannot walk in heels.
Well,
Fabulous in Flats, Amazon,
yeah, on
right?
Amazon is the best place.
Okay. And so I'll be waiting for it to come on to Audible so I can get it. So, excellent. I cannot wait. Like I said, all the reviews have been awesome. So could not wait to have you on because everyone in our community has already been telling me about it. So that's why I wanted you on. They've already been raving about this book. So in our community, just know that you've got awesome reviews. And so thank you so much for being on Move It or Lose It. I can't wait to have you back. So we'll have to collaborate and I'll have to have you in the women's group and that would be really fun. And I can't wait to have you back again. It's been lovely to have you.
Yes, no, thank you so much for having me on. This has been great. This conversation has been so much fun.
Yeah, for sure. You are fun. I can't wait to have you do something. You could be a comedian for sure.
Well, I don't know about that, but sure. Thanks.
Oh, I think so. Well, guys, come back next week where we have another edition. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Please subscribe. I hear you guys tell me you like the podcast, but I need you to subscribe, please. So you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or any of the place that you get your podcasts. Also on YouTube. Have a great week, guys. See you next week. Bye. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Move It or Lose It podcast, where you can again find us every Tuesday. And also wherever you like your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, join us on that. And we can't wait to see you again. We're going to have a lot of exciting guests and working together. And as always, you'll hear us say at the end of every podcast, we are stronger together. So let's do it. Let's become stronger together. Have a great day.